I'm Lisa Trunky with Peche Media. May 5th is the National Awareness Day for Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls, also known as the Red Dress Day. I thought I would follow up with Elizabeth Logue and Gina Wilson to speak on what this day means to them. So welcome, Gina and Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me, and Elizabeth too. I'm so happy to be here and happy to talk about this really important topic.
Well, first off, introduce yourself. You know, you wear a lot of hats. I couldn't do the intro, so please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So Gina Wilson, I'm from Gittigan-Zibi. I'm Algonquin. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I'm also a deputy minister in the federal government. So currently I'm deputy minister of diversity and inclusion and youth. And I also help out the Deputy Minister of Canadian Heritage, as well as Deputy Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations at times. So yes, I do wear a lot of hats, and one of my most favorite hats is Deputy Minister Champion for Federal Indigenous Employees.
Thank you. Yeah. And Elizabeth, I know you have multiple hats, so please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm Elizabeth Logue, and I'm Algonquin Irish descent. So from Gittigan-Zibi is where I get my Algonquin, and Irish from the settlers that came up and worked in the forestry industry and fell in love. So that is my background. But yeah, the many hats. Gina and I have worked together on many different federal government projects over the years. And she didn't mention, though, that she was working at the Status of Women before as well. So that was a big job as well. So I've worked on a lot of Inuit policy in my time, so Indigenous youth and education and arts policy, and locally I've been really involved just in various community-based issues here. I'd like to get involved to contribute to the community awareness and just fun as well, arts and community fun.
And Elizabeth and I have been talking about Wakefield, Peche, because I drive through there quite a bit, and I always get my insights from Elizabeth on that lovely community of yours.
So tell me, with the National Day of Awareness for Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls, can you tell me a little bit about the history behind this day?
Elizabeth probably knows a little bit about more of the history and how it came about. I think what's meaningful to me about it is it does create opportunity for conversations on one of the most important topics, or the most important topic that we have here in Canada, which is the numerous number of Indigenous women and girls and 2S LGBTQIA persons who have gone missing or murdered in this country. It's a national tragedy, and one that I'm happy to be working on right now. I'm working with a group of amazing women across the country and we're developing something called a National Action Plan, which is in response to the national inquiry that wrapped up their work a couple of years ago. But Elizabeth can talk a little more eloquently about the campaign itself.
Yeah, I think, Gina talked about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited and LGBTQ, but where the Red Dress Project comes from is from a Métis artist. Her name is Jamie Black, and she did a project a few years ago, I'd say over 6 or 7 years ago, where she hung red dresses on clothesline, 100 red dresses, and each dress was to represent a missing Indigenous woman or girl. So it was to raise awareness, kind of that stark reality especially, I think she is from Saskatchewan or Alberta, and it was that starkness of being out and seeing these red dresses all in a line and being struck by that. And of course the color red, one of the powerful colors of the medicine wheel, but also your heart, like it sort of pulls you in. And so here in Wakefield, I know I started putting red dresses in Peace Park because I felt like Peace Park is a place where of dialogue, and there's a veterans monument there, but it's about dialogue, I think. So, and it's that the red flashing light in Wakefield where everybody commutes and goes through and sees it in the morning or coming home. So for myself, it was a park that would actually get the most traffic, where people would see the red dresses. And when I first started doing it, people didn't really know what it was for, and it would spark Facebook discussions and who put that red dress, and is someone missing a dress? Like I found a red dress but I think over time people have come to know about the campaign, and it actually gets them to reflect on how it's still an issue, and there's still women going missing today. And I'm really happy to hear about you working on the action plan, Gina, because that'll be important.
Well, I'm really happy actually, Elizabeth, to hear about what you've been doing in Wakefield and the community, because I'll often say I wish all communities would do that type of activity, and we're not quite there yet, but it is a community as an example that's taken this on, and not only sparked by the red dress that you hung, but there's been activities that have come afterwards as a result, and that's just amazing, so really glad that you're doing that.
Gina, can you speak a little more on this action plan that you're working on?
Yeah, so one of the recommendations that came out of the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls was to develop an action plan, so that it's just not an inquiry hanging out there and someday, like other inquiries that have gone throughout the years, or commissions or reports, but there's actually something taken from that and co-developed, I would say, with Indigenous women's organizations to actually put in place concrete steps to move forward. So all groups the groups that are involved are groups like the Assembly of First Nations and all the national Indigenous organizations, Les Femmes Métis, we have National and Family Survivors Circle. So we have a very significant large group of Indigenous women leaders across the country, an amazing group that actually involve, I would say, about 100 Indigenous women across the country overall, if you count all the sub-working groups, etc. And together we're putting together what would be the national action plan going forward. And we hope that we can release that very soon. And it will start to be a blueprint, I think, for Canada moving forward. It would involve provinces and territories, municipalities, etc. All groups doing something about this national tragedy. And so it's very exciting work. It's very difficult work, I would say, because there's a lot of pain and trauma that's associated with this work. It's very heavy in that sense, but it will be a plan that is evolutionary in nature, and it won't be just a one plan released at a one time. It's going to have to be over several years. This issue has come about as a result of colonization, as a result of misogyny, as a result of so many things that have gone wrong in Canada. And it's sort of a microcosm of absolutely the most racist behavior that we can hold ourselves to in this country. So it's going to take us a while to move out of it, but there's a plan moving forward, which is the important thing.
Mm.
And with, you were speaking about reconciliation, and what can people do to contribute to this?
Well, Liz probably has ideas too, but I would say, there's a lot of things you could do. Just reading, hearing this interview for one, and paying attention to that is something you can do. You can learn more about, I would say, Algonquin history. People acknowledge the land, but do they necessarily understand the history of the people involved in the territory? Hiring an Indigenous student and mentoring an Indigenous student is an act of reconciliation. Elizabeth, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad to hear that the action plan would go right down to the municipal level, because I think people in communities want to know how they can do it, right? Like not just sort of looking and seeing a red dress and going, okay, now I reflect on it, but actually taking an action, you know, like being curious about something and and asking the questions, not just assuming things, and finding out and creating relationships between people. I think that that's a big thing, so that we understand each other. You know, like Gina says, this is Wakefield's just one community on the way up to Kitigan-Zibi. There's other communities on the way up that would be great to sort of really just start having dialogue. Yeah, yeah. And there's a committee in Wakefield that's doing reconciliation work. Paul Brown and Louise Prophet LeBlanc and others. They have events every once in a while, and you know, just going on and taking part in those to learn little bits of history and put the pieces of the puzzle together, I think goes a long way on the individual level. Yeah.
Agreed.
And Gina, what inspires you every day to be a part of this?
You know, I think my own upbringing definitely led me here. There's nothing closer to my heart than improving the quality of life of Indigenous women, families, communities. And it had a lot to do with my own upbringing, being of, you know, difficult circumstances and lots of challenges, but coming full circle, I would say, in many respects, to being able to deal with many of those issues that I encountered as a kid, be it dysfunction, be it alcoholism, be it violence, be it you know, racism, being able to come back and do the kind of work that I do now, and have the influence to actually make changes to policies and programs and operations is what drives me every day. And I'm just, you know, really privileged to be doing this kind of work, and happy to be here talking to you, for instance. So it's all good.
Yeah, and so it's such an honor, Gina, that, you know, just here, you're so resilient. You know, it's your resiliency and courage has really, I think, inspired other Indigenous federal government employees and non-government employees, and just that inspiration of saying, you know, wanting to make sure that the next generation is has a better upbringing, better, I don't know, just better statistics. Let's improve things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you build those people like Elizabeth coming up behind you, you know, doing great things as well. And Liz is a bit younger than me, but not that much, but you know, so, you know, creating, helping to mentor others. And I know, Liz, you do that with others as well. I mean, that's so rewarding because you want to see strong, powerful, influential Indigenous women coming up through the ranks everywhere.
Well, anything else you want to add to this, Gina, before we have to wrap up?
No, I wish you and your media outlet all the best, and maybe our paths will cross again someday.
And Elizabeth, before we wrap up, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Acknowledge Brooke Gibson, who's a local artist, who a few years ago, when we had an event at the community center, did an installation of red dresses where she had hung up in commemoration of the Red Dress Project, and she had hung up red dresses and had gone for the effect of having many mirrors, so reflecting those red dresses into infinity through the different mirrors she had set up. So it was quite a beautiful powerful installation, and through that we've really connected. And yesterday, when we did hang the two red dresses in Peace Park, they were to recognize Maisie and Shannon, who are two women who are missing from Kitigan-Zibi, and they've been missing for close to 8 years. So that was something that I think also connects our two communities. That, to me, it's a reminder that it's not something happening very far away, it's happening right here. So that was something that Brooke really wanted to bring forward, that that it's right here in our community.
And are you feeling, you've been doing this for a number of years, are you feeling that more awareness is being made and people are understanding of this tragic problem?
Yeah, I think so. I've had people, just like quietly thank me for putting a dress up, and then for some people it's just they only think about it once a year, and in a way to me that's fine, and other people are working on issues related to it, and so that's also sort of a not just a reminder, but I find it's, to me, when I started putting red dresses in the park too, it was partly whenever I was working on a big issue at the department, like I'd been working in Indigenous policy for many years, and if we had really big difficult meetings coming up, as Gina mentioned, when the work is important but it's very difficult, and we had work related to MI, like the missing and murdered, I would put a dress up as a sort of to give strength, to give me strength, and to give strength and power to the work that we were doing, and connecting it back to community and connecting it back even to the river. So to me, it was partly that, and that people would, it's like it sparks dialogue, sparks conversation. People who may not know that they're just an hour and a bit away in Kittigan-Ziibi, there's 2 women who've been missing, and not realize the statistics and where things are, and how it's still an issue. So it was really great to hear about Gina working on the action plan, because she definitely gets stuff done in government. So that's good to know. Yeah.
And so you also put dresses up in December as well to bring awareness?
There is another key day. I think Jamie Black's project was done in September. So we've put them up in September, and I think the time that I've put them up in the winter, it was for key meetings of missing and murdered, like key government related decision-making meetings. And so it was to kind of bring strength to those, to that decision-making. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I have to thank you, and I really hope that you continue this process, and not only just these 2 days, but to keep making this aware to everyone in our community.
Yeah, and I think some people have started putting one up at their own residence. So, and maybe next time it's to try to get the word out and see how many people will put one out. It's always, you don't want to make people feel like they have to, but you also want to include them in this sort of act of showing not just reconciliation, but just showing some awareness. And so there's always that factor of putting the word out, but not wanting to pressure people to do it. And so there could be definitely a way of kind of broadening it and getting people to put a red dress out at their driveway next time around, and see how many we can get, that people will. It's a small act, but it sort of does, as I say, spark reflection and dialogue. So.
Well, thank you for your time, Elizabeth. We'll very much appreciate you joining today.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll be sure to follow up with Gina to find more information on the national action plan that she is working towards. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lisa with Peche Media.